How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be giving Melinoe from Hades 2 a Pokemon team, as if she was a Pokemon trainer. The way I'm going to be doing this is looking at some of her different characteristics, so some of the things that inform her character, especially like starting out early in the game. Less looking at like character arcs for later in the game, because I don't want to get into too much spoiler stuff, and I think we can build a pretty strong Pokemon team based on just her base characteristics and vibes. Another thing I wanted to try and do is incorporate all of her animal companions that she has in the game into her Pokemon team, as well as incorporate all of the weapons she uses, the nocturnal arms, into different Pokemon in the Pokemon team. So it's kind of a fun puzzle that I put together for myself to solve, but it was a good time. So yeah, let's jump into it. So getting into some of the characteristics that I'm going to be looking at, Melinoe is the god of ghosts, so I want to give her some ghost-type Pokemon on her team. She's also the princess of the underworld, so I want to have some dark-type Pokemon on her team. She's also a witch who studies under the Silver Sisters with Selene and Artemis. So I want to make sure her Pokemon have some sort of witch elements or magical elements to incorporate that part of her character. Her first Pokemon is going to be Greninja, which coincides with Freenos being Mel's first animal familiar, which is a frog. This kind of pairs with like Froakie being Melinoe's starter. Greninja is also dark type, which covers her connection to the underworld. For the weapon it pairs with, I think Greninja has a connection to the Sister Blades Liminoros. The Sister Blades have high attack speed, which kind of relates to Greninja having a really high base speed stat. The special first Liminoros are shurikens that are thrown out, which is kind of like the water shurikens, which are Greninja's signature move. The Omega attack for Liminoros has Mel appear behind the enemy and attack them, which is kind of like in Super Smash Bros. Where Greninja uses, I think it's Shadow Sneak, to like appear behind the enemy. In terms of stats for her Greninja, gonna have high speed and high attack for the fast close attacks that we see with Liminoros in the game. In terms of moves, like we talked about earlier, Shadow Sneak is similar to the Omega attack for Liminoros, and it's also a ghost type move. We're also giving the Greninja Water Shuriken. Like I talked about earlier, this relates to the special for Liminoros is throwing out the multiple blades, kind of like water shurikens. I'll also be giving her Greninja Night Slash, which is like a slashing move like the blades, and it's also a dark type move. Bringing it back to Freenos, they can block projectiles for Mel, so I'm going to be giving her Greninja Protect to kind of connect with that ability that Freenos has. I wanted to pull something for the Tablet of Peace that Freenos has, which turns the Lost Shades into Psyche and sends them back to the Crossroads, but I wasn't really sure how to represent that with Greninja in any way. So if you have any ideas for that, please leave a comment below, because I think that would be cool to incorporate Freenos' entire ability set on Mel's Greninja. For Greninja's ability, I definitely wanted to give it Protean, just to relate to Mel taking boons from the gods and having their elements like applied to her attacks. I think Protean can represent her character well with that. For Mel's second Pokemon, I'm going to be giving her a Corviknight. This will represent Rocky, her Raven familiar. Corviknight is definitely the most Raven Pokemon. We're also going to be making her Corviknight shiny to match Ravi's white color, which I think is a fun little connection too. Corviknight can represent Zorofet, the Moonstone Axe. It's like this giant metal axe that swings really slow, and Corviknight's large metal wings kind of make me think of large axe blades. In terms of Corviknight's stats, I'm going to give it high attack and high HP. This can represent the axe with its strong attacks and also having more like defensive builds usually. In terms of Pokemon moves, I'm going to be giving it Brave Bird. It's a high power attack, but you take damage. And usually at least when I'm using the Moonstone Axe in the game, I have really high attack power, but I'm usually taking damage more often because I'm getting in close for the attack. They're also going to have Steel Wing, which is similar to like an axe swing, like a metal axe swing. I'm also going to be giving Corviknight Drill Peck, which is like a spinning attack. This represents the Omega attack for the Moonstone Axe, where Mel spins the axe around continuously. Corviknight will also have Thief, which is a dark type move, which can connect to the underworld aspect of her character. Rocky also has a quick mining ability, which essentially just allows it to pick up one of the collectibles in the game you get through the runs. Mel can like mine ore that she finds. That Thief move can kind of connect to that ability Rocky has. And then I'm going to be giving Corviknight the Unnerve ability, less for like gameplay connection reasons and more for just a giant axe being unnerving, especially seeing Mel like coming at you with a huge giant axe. I feel like would be unnerving in a general sense. I don't have anything to relate to the Omega special for the Moonstone axe, so again, if you have any ideas for that, let me know in the comments below. Her third Pokemon is going to be Gourgeist, which represents Tula, the cat on her team. I don't know what you may be thinking, like, this pumpkin plant is definitely not a cat, but if you look at Gourgeist's pre-evolution Pumpkaboo, it definitely has like a cat head shape, and I think this is close enough. Gourgeist is ghost type as well, which is something that I'm wanting to incorporate into her team. So ghost cat, there's a lot of dark type cats which could fit, but I think that Gourgeist kind of fits Mel's vibe as well, being like witchy and stuff. The weapon that Gourgeist represents is the Umbral Flames, which is another reason why I wanted to use Gourgeist. Gourgeist is a lantern similar to like a torch, which the Umbral Flames are. They can also learn fire moves, which can relate back to the torch. And yeah, like I said, I think Gourgeist fits Mel's vibe better than, even like if I was going to use a fire type cat, since I'm representing it with the Umbral Flames, I feel like Gourgeist fits Mel's vibe better than like Flareon or Pyroar, which are also like fire cats but don't have that darker ghost type with it as well. In terms of Gourgeist's stats, I'm going to be giving it high defense and high special attack to essentially represent the range attacks you have with the Umbral Flames. Using this weapon, Mel likes to keep a distance from the enemies and kind of throw out her attacks, like I said, from a distance. For Gourgeist's moves, Mystical Fire to represent her attack, and Omega Attack, throwing out flames. Fire Spin to represent her special, and Omega Special, in which she like spins flames around her, and I feel that kind of relates to Fire Spin, like the spinning fire around enemy Pokemon. I definitely wanted to give Gourgeist Rest to represent Tula napping during battle. So the way Tula's mechanics work is you have to sprint past Tula, and Tula will wake up to attack the enemies on the screen. And she does like pretty good attacks, like they're pretty high damage, but the offset is that like once she's done attacking, she goes back to sleep. So I think the rest kind of pairs with that. And then I did want to give Gourgeist Destiny Bond, because that seems like a curse type move that a witch might cast on someone, and I think that fits with Mel's witch vibe. And then for Gourgeist's ability, I wanted to give them Pickup, since Tula catches fish is one of their abilities in the game. For Mel's fourth Pokemon, I'm giving her Delphox, and this will represent Hecuba, the dog animal familiar. Delphox isn't exactly a dog, but definitely like a canine. For reference, Hecuba, the dog animal familiar, as well as the next animal familiar, Gale, are actually Hecate's animal familiars, but Mel gets them on her team for the game, and I kind of like to think about this as like Fennekin was Hecate's starter Pokemon, and she eventually evolved it into Delphox. Hecate could kind of like work as a Pokemon professor because she's in a leadership role and like training her and starts her off on her journey. So I kind of like to think about like if I was going to think of Melinoe's like progress as a Pokemon trainer, she could have started with Brokey as her starter Pokemon and eventually leveled up to Greninja, got Corviknight, and got Gourgeist on the way on her journey, and then at some point in the story, Hecate trades her the next two Pokemon. So I think that kind of fits well with the story, and also kind of fits well with like in terms of the progression in the game. In the game, you find those first three animal familiars first, Freenos, Tula, and Rocky, and then later in the game, once you get far enough, you get access to Hecuba and Gale. So I think that kind of fits like in terms of story progression for if we're thinking about connecting Hades 2 to Pokemon. Anyways, back into Hecuba. The other potential pick to represent Hecuba was Houndoom, but I really like the witch vibes that Delphox brings to Mel's Pokemon team. And I also wanted to save Houndoom for a future potential video where we give a Pokemon team to Hades, and I definitely want Hades to have a Houndoom to represent Cerberus. So yeah, if you guys want to see more videos like that, be sure to comment and also subscribe, because this is definitely something I enjoy doing. Theory crafting Pokemon teams for fictional characters is a fun thing for me to do. Yeah. And of course, the weapon that Delphox is going to represent is Deskira, the Witch's Staff. Delphox's wand is kind of like a staff, and I think that just fits well. Delphox's stats, we're going to be giving it high special attack for like the range that the Witch's Staff has. We're going to be giving it Shadow Ball, which is a ghost type attack and also represents its Omega special, like sending out a ranged attack ball toward the enemy. We're going to be giving it Mystical Fire, which has witchy vibes, and then also represents the Omega attack of being like a ranged attack move. I wanted to give Delphox Hypnosis, which is kind of like a witch spell, like putting someone to sleep. And this also represents Hecuba's ability Guard Bond, which stuns enemies in battle. So I think that was a good way to like incorporate both of those things. And then I'm also giving Delphox Future Sight, which is like a witch spell telling the future, but also it can represent time, which is like a big aspect of Melinoe's character and story throughout the game. And then of course we're giving Delphox the Magician ability to relate to those witch vibes as well. Her fifth Pokemon is going to be Obstagoon, which Gale represents. Linoone, which is Obstagoon's pre-evolution, is like a similar rodent ferret type animal. And I imagine Gale getting like buff and edgy after spending more time at the crossroads, which is like very funny to me because Gale is like this cute little like ferret, and connecting it to Obstagoon kind of seems like a big jump, but I think that it fits well. Like it's a similar rodent, like I said, and then maybe it's like a future Gale that is stronger. I don't know. The reason I wanted Obstagoon for sure is because I'm representing Reval, the Ardent Skull, with Obstagoon. This kind of relates to like the edgy patterns on Obstagoon's fur, and like I said, this is kind of like a stretch, but if you focus on like the vibes of the Pokemon, I think it fits well, and I think it's a fun connection to make. But if you have anything that fits better, let me know in the comments below. For stats, I wanted to give her Obstagoon High Speed because the special provides a lot of movement options for the Ardent Skull, because you can kind of zoom around the screen with it. For moves, I definitely wanted to give it Headbutt because the Ardent Skull's attack is literally like throwing skulls at the enemy, so I thought Headbutt was like a very literal connection for that. I'm also going to give her Obstagoon Pin Missile. For the Ardent Skull, you're throwing like multiple skulls out with an attack. It's also a bug type move, which can represent Nature Bond, which is an ability that Gale has where it picks up like flowers throughout your run. That's like another collectible pickup. I guess not collectible. It's another like item pickup you can have throughout your runs. When you're using Ardent Skull to attack, the skulls you throw at the enemy are left on the ground like next to the enemy. So I wanted to give Obstagoon Switcheroo to kind of connect to that process of like picking up the skulls that are next to the enemy, can kind of connect to like swapping items with your enemy, which is what the attack Switcheroo does in Pokemon. I definitely wanted to give Obstagoon Counter because of Gale's ability Wild Bond. When Mel gets attacked for the first couple times in each zone in the game, instead of taking damage, Gale will block the attack and then damage the enemy. So I thought Counter was a good way to represent that ability for Gale. And then I'm giving Obstagoon the Reckless ability. It doesn't really fit gameplay wise, like in terms of what Reckless does as an ability, but vibes wise, I think dashing around with the special to collect skulls can be considered Reckless. Alright, for her last Pokemon, unfortunately Mel only has 5 animal familiar companions, so the last Pokemon I'm giving her, Golurk, is going to represent the last Nocturnal Arms that I haven't assigned yet, which is Zinth, the Black Coat. Zinth, the Black Coat, is inspired by like mechs and exosuits. Another potential Pokemon for this would have been Metagross, or one of like the Iron Paradox Pokemon, but I feel like the ghost typing of Golurk was really calling out to me to fit with Melinoe's vibes as the god of ghosts. I think about like in the anime, you can see them like rocket boosting everywhere, which reminds me of like using sprint with the black coat. You kind of like hover, fly off the ground. In my mind, that connection made a lot of sense to me. Golurk also has like strong physical punches, like the attack and Omega attack. So yeah, like I said, I think this fits well. In terms of Golurk stats, I'm giving them high attack and split defense and special defense. For their Pokemon moves, I'm giving them Focus Punch, which can represent the charging Omega attack, where Mel charges up a punch and then releases a really strong attack. I'm giving them Earthquake as well, which can represent Mel's dash attack with this move, where she dashes and then attacks and then sends out like a wave of damage. I'm giving them Stone Edge, which can represent the special of like sending out multiple seeking missiles, kind of like Stone Edge sends out like multiple stones to attack the enemy. And then of course I'm giving Golurk her Golurk Fly, which just really completes like the mech vibes of the Pokemon. For the ability, I'm giving them No Guard, which can represent the homing special attacks. And yeah, that's it for this video. Definitely a lot shorter than my last one, but this was fun to make, and it's something that also is like easy for me to do. Like when I'm playing games and then I stop playing games and I'm like doing other stuff in the world, in like real life, I like daydreaming about Pokemon teams is something that I do. And it's also like kind of nostalgic for me. Like when I was younger as a kid, this was something like I would do with my friends or like cousins or whatever. Like even like in like Boy Scouts or something like that, we'd be on a camp out, and instead of like doing nature things, or while we were doing nature things, we were like thinking of Pokemon teams, Theorycrafting Pokemon teams. So I think it's something fun, and if you agree, definitely follow for more, because I think this is something I want to do in the future for sure. Definitely don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. Definitely follow me on Twitch, where I stream a lot of games. I stream Tuesdays and Saturdays pretty regularly, so I would really appreciate it if you supported me there. I would definitely really appreciate if you supported me here as well. I really enjoy making these videos, so yeah, and I'm hoping you guys enjoy watching them. I will see you next time.